Alright, so before we can start invoicing, we need to have our inventory stock levels in the system. So what are the ways by which our stock increases in the system? And there are two ways. First is if we book a purchase, which means we go to purchase and book a purchase invoice. This will basically credit your vendor and debit your inventory and increase your stock levels. Well, the debit credit obviously is a part of accounts and we are not concerned here, but it will essentially increase your inventory stock levels for that. So that is one way. But typically you have already purchased your items which is there in your stock, and when we are starting to use this new system, we just need to enter what we already have without affecting the books of our vendors, right? So essentially purchase invoice cannot be used in this scenario. So the other way which increases our stock levels is through inventory material receipts. Now material receipt is basically a transaction that just increases your stock levels. In terms of accounting, you have to specify which account to credit, and it will automatically use the item account to debit. But that is again a part of accounting and we are not concerned about accounting here. So as far as inventory levels are concerned, we can book a material receipt and increase our stock levels. Now before we do this, you would typically want this information available from your accounting department, because you might not only want the quantities available to you, but you might also want to put in the price at which they are in your current inventory. Now again, we are not talking about accounting here, but still if you want a value-wise report later on, you can get it if you put in the prices also. However, if you don't want that, you can obviously put a 0 in the price and just increase your quantities. Now there are two ways of using this transaction. Number one is manually, in which we actually specify item code and the quantities for the warehouse we want to increase the stock levels for. So this is one way. The other way is through data import. So we'll look at both the ways one by one. So if we have to do this manually, so the first thing that we have to do is make a series code for this, which is the document numbering, because otherwise we won't be able to add a transaction. So let's go ahead and add a series for this. So we'll go into configuration and document series, and we'll choose material receipt, and let us make a series for this. We'll say we are starting from number 1, last number was 0, next number is going to be 1. There is no limit, so there is no ending number, and this is going to be a default series, and we'll update it. Now once we've done this, now we can go back to our inventory and start entering our material receipts to book the opening balances. So let's say we have this item and we have, let's say, 20 of this, right, in Delhi warehouse, and then we also have this item, and let's say we have 50 of these. Now you see that on the project code, when we press tab, we get a list, and obviously it's empty. So what we can do is get rid of this column by choosing field chooser and saying we don't want this column anymore, and we can save the screen settings. So now we'll just focus on the warehouse, and let's add one more, and let's add this, and same warehouse. So you can actually enter the same item multiple times with different warehouses also, so that you can actually enter the opening balances of different warehouses. So let's say this is the inventory that we hold, and we simply have to push this transaction. We can also change the dates here. So if you are going to use this from the start of financial year, then you might want to put in the financial year start date. So for example, 1st of April or whatever date that suits you. So if you are going to start this in the first of your calendar month, then you might want to put the opening balances on the last date of previous month, because then when you pull out the reports, and if you also have other material receipts happening in your system, then these transactions of opening balances will not be included in the reports of this particular month. Now you might also want to put in remarks to identify these transactions as opening balances. So once you have done this, you can just simply add, and we have increased the stock levels for these items. So if you want to check, we can again go to a standard report of stock details, and we'll see that we have the stock levels of these items up by the respective quantities. Alright, so if we start invoicing now for these items, the system will allow us till these quantities are available. Now let us also look at how we can do the same exercise but through data import, so that if we have a large amount of items with their respective balances and maybe different warehouses, then how do we go about it?